in Part 3 of our investigative report.
We want the children to understand that racism is systematic and institutionalized.
White privilege is something that white people have, meaning they have an advantage to a lot of things.
They go home and tell my parents that I'm a racist, and I'm not proud of that, but I am proud that I can say that.
The White Priviledge Conference, or WPC, is an annual gathering of thousands of private and public educators, students, and school administrators from across the country. Participants examine and confront what they see as systemic race-based privilege in America. In previous installments of this report, we've examined two of the conference's keynote addresses.
White people did not exist before 1681. Again, white people did not exist on planet Earth until 1681.
And right now, I'm going to suggest to you that race is driving almost everything that's happening in the country.
We've also shown how the white privilege worldview revealed in the keynote addresses is further reinforced in the workshops.
Racism is central to America.
The longer you are in the Tea Party, the more racist you become.
But just for clarification, I am being asked not to be in that room because of the color of my skin.
In this installment of our report, we'll focus on the most critical component of this popular educational conference, encouraging and instructing teachers to apply white privilege theory in their classrooms with children as young as 4 years old. In this workshop, teachers Rosemary Colt and Diana Reeves demonstrate how they teach white privilege and social justice theory to 8-year-olds.
Welcome to Examining White Privilege and Building Foundations for Social Justice in the Elementary Classroom.
But what we are hoping to be able to convince you is possible is to take these spoken sequences, which you're directed to be using, and to find within them opportunities to begin to insert social justice, anti-racist information for even little kids to understand.
The social justice, anti-racism information these teachers are exposing the children to is reflected in these worksheets on display as part of the presentation. In one worksheet, the child comments that the Constitution doesn't work well for everyone because some people have different beliefs. One child writes that if you have privilege, that means you're white. Here, the teachers play actual footage from the classroom, showing not only how they guide their students toward particular conclusions about white privilege, but also how the children themselves are able to recall the basic tenets of white privilege ideology.
Do you remember that word that I used when we were talking about our previous role play, where it's sometimes hard, if you are this, to think about people who may not be so. It started with a P.
Pretending.
No, pretending was what we were doing. Sometimes you have a lot and you're not even aware of how much you have. And it's sometimes called privilege. Remember that word, privilege? If you have privileges, it's sometimes difficult to even think about people who might not have privileges.
White privilege is when people that are white get an advantage to the people who are people of color. So if there was like a job and a person of color was applying and a white person was applying and the owner was a white person, they might pick the white person just because of the person's color, even if the black person was better. White privilege is something that white people have, meaning they have an advantage to a lot of things, and they can get a job more easily.
In addition to sponsoring teachers and professors, each year universities and high schools send hundreds of students to the White Privilege Conference. Some students even receive academic credit for their attendance.
What do you do?
I'm a student. I'm not a student, actually.
Oh, okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Are you guys in high school, or are you here on a college? Oh, that's awesome. Are you in high school?
I am in high school.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you guys high school students?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where are you here from?
Colorado.
Me too.
Oh, really? Where from? Oh, UCCS.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You guys get college credit for coming here, right?
We do.
This country, particularly the United States, was created by men, really, and have left women out since really the beginning of time, and have always treated them as second-class citizens. Women didn't get the right to vote until really, how many decades ago? I know it's too late.
History was last semester. Many people say, the U.S. is improving in these areas. Is it really? Because those were the foundations put in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's what it was supposed to be in the beginning, but it wasn't.
The foundation is systematic because we're still following the Constitution today. We're still following everything of the United States. We're just in a different year, really. Everything's the same. So that's privilege. So when you talk about white privilege, you're talking about privileges that are entitled specifically to people of the skin color who are white.
At the end of the conference, students were encouraged to take the stage and talk about what they had learned at the WPC.
I'm really happy to be here. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like I've had this space where I can be weak and vulnerable, and I don't have to lie about that. I can talk about how the racism inside me, I feel like when I go home and tell my parents that I'm a racist, and I'm not proud of that, but I am proud that I can say that. And so I guess thank you for making this happen.
In the final installment of our report, we'll examine internal contradictions and inconsistencies evident within the white privilege movement.
For me, capitalism is like the all-consuming thing. Capitalism maintains white supremacy, white privilege, racism, sexism, patriarchy, heteronormativity, you name it, capitalism.